what a beautiful ball. Now it's Cristiano Ronaldo with a chance maybe to seal it, and he has taken it. Lahm in all kinds of space. Lahm, Muller through Muller, could be embarrassing. It's three. Tony Kroos. Olivier Giroud. Marcus found Klein with a speedy burst, and that's terrific from Vardy. Oh, what a goal by Jamie Vardy.
Hello and good evening and welcome and all that jazz. It's hashtag TFHP Euros. It's the Football Hipsters podcast and I'm your host Kris, back once again.
With the Renegade Master.
I was going to say that, but I've used that line before, so I can't really say that. So never mind, I'm back anyway. So thank you to John for holding the fort last night. And he was so good at it, I thought I'd bring him back as a guest. So good evening, John.
Good evening.
And it has to be a group effort, so I also thought I'd invite Tom as well.
What's up?
And I've even managed to prize Drew out of a jam jar. Evening, Drew.
Hey guys, Tom, I like your American accent. I approve.
That was unintentional, so that's nothing better.
Right, let's talk some soccer.
Oh,
right then, so we've just got one more game to cover this evening, which was the other semi-final. And despite all of you miserable gits, I heard you on the pod last night. I heard all of you mocking me, throwing me under that proverbial bus. Well, bugger you lot. France 2, Germany 0. That was the final score. So let's get some initial thoughts. Start with Drew, because his beloved Germany were the side that have exited at this stage. So Drew, what did you reckon?
Initially, I think Germany, at least in the first half, they did everything right up until the point where Bastian Schweinsteiger thought it was appropriate to put his hands up in the box, doing his best Jerome Boateng impression, and for the second time, Germany conceded a goal from the penalty spot. I thought they dominated the match well. I thought that Jogi Löw set the team up correctly. I thought the movement was excellent moving forward when they were in possession, and when France maintained possession, I thought everyone tracked back the way they needed to be. I thought everyone supported each other well. I thought Germany were in the driver's seat up until the point where France got a justly called penalty kick. So honestly, I feel like in the second half, France did play much better. I agree, and we talked in the WhatsApp chat, and Tom was spot on when he said there's a number of French players who put in potentially tournament of the performance of the tournament performances, namely players at the back. I thought Sissoko was actually very, very good as well. I thought France were much improved in the second half, and they built on going into the dressing room 1-0. And then Germany didn't really respond well. Michael Ballack questioned how France would play holding a 1-0 lead, and if they could. But some others criticized him for thinking that the onus was on Germany to take the match to France down 1-0. I don't think Germany did quite enough. And I feel like it's not the response you would have seen from or want to see from a team who have that much ability. And I think the loss is partly because they shot themselves in the foot, but also because France did get the goal they wanted, and then they respond as a potential champion should, and they built on that. So credit has to be given to France for the second half performance, but I do think that if Germany made good on how dominant they were in the first half, it could have been a different result. But that said, the result's in the books now, and I think France do deserve to go through, personally.
Very fair judgment, and very sporting to say as such. Tom, let's pick up the reins, and we'll go through individuals and stuff in a bit. But I'm sure you want a little piece of Antoine Griezmann chat. So once again, proving probably that he's been the player of the tournament when all's said and done. Particularly if France end up winning it, I think he will be. He was the difference tonight overall, wasn't he? Apart from others we'll come on to, but from an offensive point of view, he was the difference between the two sides.
Yeah, he certainly was. I didn't think Drew had one of his best games. He was okay, and I think Griezmann had to step up because of that. And just the pace. I thought you said Drew then. I was going to say. Drew.
That's a bit harsh. Sorry, my bad. Carry on.
No, but it's the energy that Griezmann has on that pitch is electric at times, running down that either flank because he transitions. I mean, I wrote a piece about Renato Sanchez and how he transitions across the midfield three. Well, in attacking sense, Griezmann's literally everywhere. One moment he's at left back, next moment he's on left wing. I mean, for the second goal, he was down by the right hand side corner flag and then married his way over into the middle of the box when the ball finally got to Pogba, which was flicked in for the second goal. So his work rate and his pitch coveration, that's not a word and I've just invented it, but I'm going to use it. Yes, it's pitch coverage, that's the word. But it's unbelievable at times, and as you say, I think he's been the player of the tournament. I mean, that game where he was taken out, the second game of the group stage, and Deschamps decided to take him out very rightly because he didn't know his best game was against Romania, and he came in and he scored the header in the last few minutes. I mean, that has set him up so brilliantly. And then the game he had against Ireland, and he's just gone on from there and improved at every single moment. And he, as you say, best player of the tournament by far, and he's won me some monies, so all good.
Happy days. Don't gamble, kids. It's bad for you. John, let's get your thoughts on overall. As a spectacle, probably just about better than last night's game, I would suggest, although I've had cheese boards better than last night's game in truth. But still, a decent game, kind of tale of two halves. Would that be fair? I mean, Germany were dominant for very long periods of the first half after the first 5-10 minutes. And then France, second half, were a lot better. What did you make overall of the two sides?
I thought Germany were really impressive first half. They obviously had the sort of 5 minutes at the start where France were really good and Griezmann had that great chance and a good save from Neuer. But other than that, Germany completely dominated the first half. Just couldn't find the finish. Thomas Muller's European Championship form continues to be completely confusing. No idea why it is he can't get a goal at the Euros, but he can at the World Cup. I really felt sorry for Mesut Ozil and Toni Kroos because some of the deliveries that they were putting into the box in open play or from set pieces were just fantastic. And even when Germany did manage to get a player on the end of it, they just couldn't put it away. France second half were much better. Obviously, they went in with the boost because of the goal. I think I'm the only one here who didn't think it was a penalty. I think Schweinsteiger, he lost his man, but to be honest, when I first saw it, it looked like he was trying to get leverage on the player. You know, when you go to leap up and you do put your elbows out and you try and get a bit of, like a lean on their shoulder to elevate yourself. Anyway, I thought it was a little bit harsh, the penalty myself. I know everyone else disagrees, but that obviously really helped France, and then Germany just looked a bit lost, to be honest. They had their plan A, but they had no one to put the ball in the back of the net. No Gomez was a huge loss for them. Boateng going off injured hampered them a lot as well because I think Howardez and Mustafi are fine players, but they can't pass the ball like Boateng was, and for large sections of the game, he was sort of 10-15 yards inside the France half and pinging the ball about all over the place as if he was Andrea Pirlo. So that was really damaging, but France defended really well. Titi, who I criticised a lot in the last game, I thought was really good tonight. Koscielny as well. The full-backs, who have taken a lot of stick, were really solid tonight as well. Griezmann, every time he got the ball, he was always carrying it forwards and causing problems. And the midfield, again, not picking Kante at the start and bringing him on later to help out when they needed him. I think Deschamps finally sort of has got his team down. I still feel like Germany will look at it as a massive opportunity wasted because they did create a lot of chances and France still gave them opportunities. And I think everyone knew that Germany, you can get at them and you can get at their back four and at that defence. So it wasn't a massive surprise. It was just two silly mistakes for both goals.
Yeah, I think that's they're all very fair sort of sum ups of the evening. Am I allowed to have a couple of minutes? Am I allowed that on my own? I've been very what's the word? I've been very sort of balanced in my views, and I've kept everything nice and quiet, nice and relaxed and chilled throughout this tournament. But I'm just going to have a little 2 minutes, so I'll just pop this on in the background there. So France have made the final, and I just think it's only fair that we give a few players a little bit of love. So I'm just going to hijack things. Firstly, I agree with all of you. I thought the system worked perfectly tonight. Koscielny and Umtiti. Koscielny, absolutely fantastic tonight. Really, really superb. Just stepped up and proved what a lot of Arsenal fans know, that one week he can be absolutely brilliant, another week's not so good. But today, fantastic. John, Pogba, that's the Pogba we know from Juventus. I think that's fair to say. Matuidi finally coming good, even though he did give the ball away a couple of times. I thought his sort of distribution was better. Overall, ran the game. He's more of a powerhouse. France proved they could win without Payet. Always a bonus. Giroud, despite that missed chance, always provided that option to let Griezmann run in behind him. He was fantastic. Tom, you're spot on. Moussa Sissoko, he's a footballer. Who knew that? He's apparently even a Champions League level footballer. Well, tonight he was. And last two, Umtiti. Love Umtiti. Just absolutely fantastic. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. He'll do well at Barcelona. I'm convinced of it. And I hate doing this, but I'm going to give a Spurs player credit. Hugo Lloris, 2 world-class saves. Probably the best goalkeeper in the tournament. Maybe barring Neuer, but he's gone out now, so who cares? There we go. I've had my moment. Right, let's move on. So let's pick on some individuals. Thank you for all being so polite and letting me have my little rant. That's very kind of you all. Right, Tom, let's...
I'm going to interrupt you rudely now. You're wrong. Buffon's best goalkeeper at the tournament, but carry on.
I was going to agree with that as well.
Right, here we go. See, this is what I have to deal with for boys and girls. They give me my 2 minutes of praise and then they throw me under that bus. Anyway, Tom, I'm going to come to you because I want to speak to you. We'll go through some individuals. From the French side of things, I just touched on it there, the Koscielny and Umtiti partnership. It was a bit of a gamble, well, a calculated risk, shall we say, to leave Umtiti in tonight. He got better as the game went on. He's obviously going to be part of a Barcelona side where he's going to get arguably even better on the ball. And his partnership with Koscielny tonight, I mean, that was the best those two have played. Obviously, you know, in the tournament as a partnership, they had their first game, but that was the best defensive display from a France side so far this tournament. And surely that will be the partnership for the final now.
Yeah, I don't think you can dismay from that at all. I think I said on the pod last night that Rami, there was a chance where he could come in because you think about his physicality, and we saw how many balls that Ozil and Kris were putting in, and Rami might have been the better bet to head some of them away and be more physical in the box. But second half, Umtiti was unplayable. He was brilliant, and the times he did miss things, Koscielny was there to mop up. Koscielny had arguably his best game of the tournament, arguably his best performance of the actual season in some senses. So I thought he was excellent in terms of like incorporating the back line. I mentioned Evra as well was excellent with those two. The amount of times he pushed Draxler out of play was excellent. His physicality shows he's not going down in his later years of his career. But ultimately, Umtiti's second half was one of the best defensive displays of the entire tournament for any players of a single half. His first half, there are questions, but he's young and this is only second France performance, so that's expected. But yeah, very impressed. And as you say, going to Barcelona, he'll only improve, and especially with his ball skills on the floor. And I am looking forward to watching him next year.
Yes, I'll dig out as a stat going around about Koscielny tonight. I shall find that in a minute. But while I'm looking for that, John, I just want to keep it with France for a minute before I sympathise with Drew a little bit, because I don't want to leave Germany out. But just sticking with France for a minute, you're a man who's seen a lot of Paul Pogba at Juventus, criticised by some, including probably you and I at times, for having an awful amount of talent and not always using it to his best ability, shall we say. What did you make of him tonight? Because particularly for that second goal, the footwork and just how he almost matured throughout the game tonight.
Yeah, he was superb tonight. He was much more disciplined than he had been in previous games. The piece of skill and just the way he dinked that ball up and just put it in a horrible area for Neuer to deal with, who did go full Neuer, much to his chagrin of the rest of his teammates. He's just a great player. The problem that everyone has with Pogba is that it's the consistency of the fact he can be so good and he can single-handedly win a game and he can just drag a team up the pitch. You know, you saw he only really did it twice in the game tonight, but there was a couple of times where he just picked the ball up and just drove sort of 60, 70 yards up the pitch. And to have a player like that in your team is really, really it's a fantastic thing to have. And it's just the frustration that he doesn't do it enough. You know, if France go on to win this tournament, you know, that's another step in his maturity. There's talks of him possibly leaving Juve now and moving even to the Premier League, so that's another step up. So he's got it all there, but I think the other side of it is people do have to remember I think he's 23. So he's got 5 years till he sort of hits his peak. Sort of prime players, midfielders are normally sort of 28, aren't they? 27 to 29, that kind of age. So he's got a long way to go, and you think how good he can be now, how much better he could be in a few years' time. It's a ridiculous talent, but I'm glad he's getting some praise now, because he was getting a lot of stick. And to be honest, most of the time in this tournament he's been played out of position as well. He's not particularly defensive for Juve. He can win the ball back and he can do that job, but it's not really what he does for them. So like tonight, he wasn't really playing the role that he would like to. He'd like to be more where Griezmann is than anything else.
What is your thought? Just elaborating on that slightly, because this has been a debate, long goes back and forth with very different people thinking different things. In your opinion, you've seen him at Juventus. Where would you have him in your ideal sort of 11, and for what reasons?
What you mean with regards to France?
Yeah, positionally, and I mean overall, where's his best position? Because he's so uber talented, but he strikes me as that sort of player that he's too flexible for his own good. Like, we don't really know where his best position is at the moment.
Yeah, he's one of those sort of players who, if you could, you'd give him a free role more than anything else and just let him play. But typically for Juve, he plays on the sort of the left-hand side of the three centre mids. But he's very box to box. But he does. At times he's like a left winger, and he's got really good link-up play with Patrice Evra. Obviously, they play a very different system at Juve. It's 3-5-2, and it's different how the midfielders, the runs they will make. So he gets more time to come inside when he wants from the left-hand side, but then peel out to the byline and put a ball in. As you saw tonight, he can do that with his left foot, and he's got great technique. So I think if you're playing a midfield free, he has to be the one who has the freedom to go where he wants. If you're playing 4-2-3-1, sounds strange, but actually is sort of the left of the three behind the striker might be something that suits him a little bit more. The question is whether he can incorporate more of the defensive duties in that position, because at Juve obviously he's got 3 defenders behind him and 2 wing backs that come back and cover, plus the centre mid, which would be Marchisio most of the time, shielding that defence. So his defensive responsibilities aren't there as such in that setup.
Yeah, fair. It's a good discussion point, because I know a lot of people are very unsure about where he's going to play. But Drew, before we touch on some stats, I do just want to give you some opportunity to speak about Germany, because there was so many different thoughts about how they do in this tournament. Could they get away without an out-and-out centre forward? They didn't, so they put in an out-and-out centre forward. He got injured. Surely, if you're a young German centre forward in the Bundesliga, you're thinking, "Hey, I've got a chance for the next tournament," because they just don't seem to be producing them right now. But was that the biggest problem for Germany tonight and overall, or do you think the problems run a bit deeper than that?
Well, I think the problem is that the entire spine was missing. A lot of people aren't Sami Khedira's biggest fan, but his influence in that side, this tournament, was massive. And the fact that they missed him against a side like France, who are very adept at finding those spaces behind the midfield but in front of the defense, they missed someone who has that understanding. Bastian Schweinsteiger came in, and while he wasn't bad, I think Khedira he's a little more physical. He's in a bit better shape. In regards to how physically strong he is, he's a little bit faster than Schweinsteiger as well, and he's a little bit more mobile. And I think if they were missing someone like Khedira, I think they, instead of going for Schweinsteiger, who has that experience, and it did come good in some instances in this match, I think they should have gone for a more mobile holding midfielder. You would even say maybe Julian Weigl deserved a chance, but I know it'd be a difficult task to bring him in for his first tournament appearance against France in semifinals. So I think maybe that's why Jurgen decided not to. But I think he was a big loss. And you brought up before, Mats Hummels wasn't there, and his distribution from the back has been immense for Germany, not just this tournament, but in general. And then also when Jerome Boateng gets removed, that is the second German center back who is good with the ball at his feet and can distribute from the back. And I think Germany relies on that quite a bit to take some of the pressure off Toni Kroos and Mesut Özil. When those two are out, I think then all of a sudden you can focus on defending just someone like a Kroos or Özil, and then your defensive task becomes a little bit that much easier. And then also with Mario Gomez out, I think there's a lot of instances this match where a traditional number 9 and center forward would have paid dividends. Even still, despite him missing, I think Germany was still good in the final third, but there are a lot of instances where they wanted to play a ball into the box and they want someone to hold that play up, or even if you play it along the floor to a center forward where someone like a Thomas Muller or Julian Draxler can make a run off of him. I think they just missed those attacking options. I think, again, that made France's job a little bit easier, even though I thought Germany were good. And I do think France defended well despite that. I think that there were some key components into the way Germany ticked that were missing that I think they definitely reared their ugly head a little bit in this match. So it was unfortunate timing for quite a few things. So.
Yeah, it's tough on Germany, and just looking ahead, how much, in your opinion, needs to change? Because we've seen teams go through sort of rebirths before. It very much feels like Spain are going to kind of start again after this tournament. I think the Italians are kind of starting again without Conte. Do you think the Germans need to go in a different direction, whether that be managerially, whether that be player wise, or is it major surgery needed, or is it just a few tweaks?
No, I don't think major surgery is needed. Honestly, I feel like if you look at the types of young players who made the squad for the tournament, but also the young players who made the provisional squad but just missed out, and then you also have a countless amount of players younger who are 25 and younger who weren't even in the provisional squad, who were littered throughout the Bundesliga, I really think that Germany aren't going to have any problems. I think, and Joshua Kimmich, I think they finally have found potentially the heir apparent to Philipp Lahm. The similarities are pretty striking, both in regards to how he pushes forward and how well he does tracking back. And despite that mistake he had that led to France's second goal, I would put my money on him being the young player of the tournament, personally, for me. Since he's been playing, I think he's been that good. I think the one concern for Germany will be how they're going to operate in the final third, if they want to stick with playing with a traditional number 9, a center forward, or do they want a more mobile striker that's going to have them maybe sort of evolve the way they operate. They may not be able to just rely on possession anymore if they're going to go with a different route that isn't a center forward based. So if they go a route where someone like, if you can make comparisons to, I don't know, someone like a Lacazette who does play center forward, but he's more mobile. So the hold-up play isn't the priority, or possession is the priority. So if you can get those balls in behind the back four, will Germany start to do more of that? Or if they want to keep continuity with what they have now, they have to look at someone like, I don't know, Kevin Volland, who at Hoffenheim, he does play on the right, but he is a very good center forward. He's more mobile, and he can play hold-up play fairly decently, and he just got his move to Bayer Leverkusen this summer. So with him getting Champions League and him testing himself at a higher level now, if he comes good under those circumstances, then you have to look at maybe him getting more of a look for the national team moving forward into World Cup qualifying. So I don't know if Jurgen Loh is going to leave or not. I think he should maybe stay into the World Cup, because I think he has an understanding of the young players coming up through the system right now. I think he has a vision for bringing them in. I think that's why you saw him put faith in Kimmich. It's why Sane and Weigl made a team. It's why Julian Brandt got a call up into the provisional squad. So I think he knows what he wants to do and who those players might come in for moving in towards qualifying. So I think they should just continue with that and then reassess after 2018 and see where they're at that point.
Yeah, much work to do as far as getting that sort of young player group through as one as well. So lots of young talent in the German squad. I'm sure they'll be back. But a couple of stats from tonight's game that I've picked out, proof that teams with less possession seem to be becoming more and more successful. France only 32% possession tonight. Germany had 68% of the ball, but just goes to show sometimes you've got to be ruthless in your chances you create. Laurent Koscielny, individual stats, 8 clearances out of 11, 7 headed clearances out of 7, 3 aerial duels out of 4, 2 blocks, 2 interceptions, 0 fouls. It's not a bad evening, is it? Also, Samuel Umtiti, 5 successful clearances on the pitch tonight. That's more than any other player on the pitch. So credit where credit's due to him. And Griezmann, 6 goals at Euro 2016. Michel Platini is the only player to score more. That's 9, obviously, in a single Euro. So I think it's fair to say he will be getting the player of the.
It's also more than Thierry Henry ever scored at any European tournaments, and more than Zidane ever scored at European tournaments, I think, as well.
Absolutely. Here's some other stats on him as well. 7 shots, 5 take-ons, 100% of which were successful. 5 crosses, 2 goals. It's not bad. It's not bad. And all for a player who largely was brought up in Spain, of course. And who's clearly, there was a brilliant picture going around of him in tears at the end of the last World Cup compared to how he was tonight. And I think that sort of says it all, that sometimes you can be a player that has a bad tournament and then can come back stronger for it. So well done to him, well done to France, and that leads us nicely into the final. Before we touch on that and before we sort of say sayonara, obviously I have to get some hipsters' choices of the game of the day. John, let's start with you. Was there a player that stood out head and shoulders above the rest for you tonight?
It's really difficult because there was a lot of good performances on both teams, to be honest. I'll pick a player from the winning team, and I'm actually going to give it to Umtiti because I thought he was really, really good at the back. Coming in at the tournament, probably wasn't expecting to play. Got some criticism in the last game, and coming up against a really difficult team to play against, who move you around and move the defence really well and find those spaces and stuff. I thought he was really good. But a little nod, obviously, I know being an Arsenal fan, I will always give a little nod to certain players, but Mesut Ozil I thought was absolutely amazing tonight. One of the best performances, and he must be gutted to not be going through, because some of the passes and the vision that guy's got is unbelievable. And it was weird as well, because even on Twitter, seeing German journalists who are normally quite critical of him, they're all saying it's the best performance they've ever seen from him in a Germany shirt. So he looked absolutely gutted. So a little nod to him, but yeah, Umtiti for me. I thought he was superb.
Good shout, and yeah, him and Ozil and Kris have to be given a shout. I agree with you. Drew, do you have one for us that stood out for you tonight?
Like John, I think it's difficult to maybe narrow it down. I think there were quite a few standout performers for both sides. Instinctually, I want to give it to Griezmann because of the goals he scored, because of how you see how much he's matured for playing for France, where his talent wasn't in question at club level, but people, as you brought up, given how he performed in the last World Cup, people would question, could he translate his game from club level to France? And I think this tournament proves that he can, but honestly, I don't know if you could put down to his goals being the defining factor of the match. Well, he scored both, which is true, but if you look at how the midfield played, how the defense played, especially once France got a bit of momentum, I think their performances were just as key as the goal scorer, and maybe even more so, because if people in other positions behind Griezmann falter, Germany don't get blanked, and it's a different game, it's a different scoreline, potentially a different result. I agree with John. I think Umtiti was excellent. I thought Koscielny was also excellent, but I don't know why I'm saying this, but I thought Moussa Sissoko was actually very, very, very good.
It's a good show,
actually. The amount of ground he covered, how well he helped transition from defense to offense and then back to defense again. I think he proved a few detractors wrong. So I guess I'm going to go the hipster route and say I thought Sissoko was brilliant.
Fair enough. There's a lot of Newcastle fans right now just smashing their head against the wall going, why? Why could you not do that for any more than one game last season that was happened to be on the telly? Frustrating as hell.
They have signed Jesus Gomez though, so they'll be happy about that.
Oh, they need somebody, because Sissoko's not going to be there after these performances. Tom, is yours the obvious, or are you going to surprise us?
No, well, to be honest, Griezmann, he scored the goals and he was energetic, but he wasn't the player of the match for me. Drew kind of stole my thunder with Sissoko. I thought he was excellent.
I'm sorry.
I'm used to it by now. But Titi, I wouldn't. He was brilliant in the second half. The first half is what sways me away from him. Sanya was excellent. Lloris was excellent. But for me, Evra was unplayable today in a defensive sense, and I'm not a fan of the player at all. I didn't like him at United. I didn't see much of him at Juventus. But tonight, the physicality he had, and to keep clearing balls away and shepherding players off the pitch, and being a bit of a leader on the field as well, I thought he was absolutely excellent. So I will go for Patrice Evra.
Oh, and I'd have picked somebody else entirely from all of that. So what on earth are we going to do?
Who are you going to pick?
Lolo for me, Koscielny. I just think that, obviously, and this is genuinely taking away an Arsenal bias.
You're not allowed to do that.
I know. Well, I'm saying I'm not going to give it. I'm going to give you your guys. But Tom asked me the question, so I'll answer it.
Can't break the rules.
I just thought consistently throughout the game, like Tom said, MTT second half was brilliant. Sissoko, that was a good shout from Drew. I thought he was very good. Griezmann, obviously. Pogba, as I say, for me, really matured tonight. But I'm going to go on TT from John. Just on Sissoko, mainly because the pressure was on him, TT, probably more than most players tonight. Rami was back and available. He's a young player. He's had all the hype of this Barcelona transfer. And had some dodgy moments, I think it is fair to say, at his debut. And now he's playing arguably one of the best, if not the best team in the world. So I'm going to go on TT, but if I'd have had my choice, it would have been because. So that's what we're going to go with. So there you go, John. You can have that one.
Moral victory.
Right. Hey, bring out the trumpets and the dancing bears. Seriously, don't make bears dance. Yeah, you'll probably end up dead, and it's illegal. Moving on, let's have a quick chat about the final. Then we'll keep it brief because Tom's going to let you guys know about somewhere where you can find a really cool preview of the final. We'll touch on that in a minute, but let's have a brief chat then. So let's start with Drew. Drew, who do you fancy? Portugal, France. Portugal have come a cropper against France most tournaments. They've snuck their way through this tournament. They're in the final. But have they got enough to stop the host nation scooping the trophy?
I don't think they do. I think this match, more than any other that France played this tournament, I think really sort of laid down some sort of marker where, with Spain out early, I think everyone would have said the favorites to win would have been Germany or France. And I think the winner of this one, you could have argued the winner of Germany. Italy could have maybe gone on and won a tournament, but I think Germany passed that test, and then France was a different test altogether, and vice versa. France, I think their first true real test was Germany. I think they passed it, and I think they did brilliant. So I would say France. I think there's too much there in that team collectively for Portugal to deal with, the multiple threats, and I think Portugal, as you say, I think that they've largely skirted by this tournament, especially in the group stage. And you could probably argue even in the round of 16. I don't. And even with Ronaldo sort of coming more into his own this tournament, I still think that there's not enough genuine threats in that Portugal team who have been consistent this tournament. On paper, there's quite a few, but in this tournament, I don't think the balance of play supports the fact that I think Portugal are really going to threaten France. I think France will go on and win. That's not to say I don't think France will necessarily keep a clean sheet. I think that they might give up a goal to a classic Ronaldo, maybe a header or set piece, whatever have you. But I think France will go on and win.
Yeah, fair points, well made, and it's a shame they can't have that Marseille crowd, by the way, which we didn't touch on earlier. They were fantastic tonight, but they will be, of course, in Paris on Sunday. Tom, I'll just ask you a slightly different question. Is this game, hypothetically, let's say France shut down Ronaldo, what other weapons have Portugal got to win this game? Because everyone is always going to focus on Ronaldo. So I want you to make the case that Portugal can win this game if Ronaldo's not part of it, so to speak. Well,
a huge factor is going to be whether Pepe's fit. I haven't read anything into it, whether he's going to be fit or if he's been ruled out yet. So that's if someone can quickly Google while I'm talking, that'd be brilliant. Hint, hint. But no, that's going to be huge for them if Pepe is going to be fit or not, because he's been brilliant in the last two rounds, other than the semi-final when he was out, obviously. Obviously, we've seen the rise of Renato Sanchez come in. His energy, his ability to transition between attacking roles with such ease, and to also create chances and make trouble the goalkeeper as well, as we've seen against Poland. So he's obviously someone to look out for. Nani's obviously one to look at. Just signed for Valencia. He's scored on different occasions now in the tournament, especially against Wales. Really, I think was quite an underrated goal actually, where he instinctively flicked onto Ronaldo's miss-hit shot. So he's always going to be a threat. But they don't start a striker, and that's been a problem for what we've seen with Germany now. and that could be their downfall. They actually have one on the bench in Eder, but he's not convincing as a striker in a team when you've got the likes of Ronaldo and you're always going to start him. Other areas of the pitch, they do the likes of João Mario, but he hasn't really convinced for me. Adrian Silva's been okay when he's played. Jean Moutinho's been okay when he's played. But for me, it's going to come down to if Pepe shuts out Griezmann, which he did very well in the Champions League final, and so there's always that. But I think France are going to win. I want Portugal because I want Ronaldo to win an international tournament. But I think France will nick it. And I'll just say that since he's not here, Ross did say at the start of the tournament he thought we'd get a new winner. So that is, of course, still on with Portugal. So he'll probably be backing them for his own opinion. So, yeah.
Good shout that, Ross, as well. Pepe he didn't train with the rest of the squad today. He was absent from the training session. So the thought is he's being patched up as best he can to be there, and it will come down to a very late decision. So no news.
I should say that Cedric and Font were excellent against Wales, so that's a boost if Pepe isn't fit.
Font has been excellent this tournament, I must admit. John, bring us home then. I want you to make the case for me as to why you think France will. Obviously, they're in their third successive final of a tournament they've hosted, and they've done pretty well in the other two. So I want you to make the case for France. What do they need to do to break down a stubborn Portuguese side and keep the door locked at the other end? What do you think the keys to victory are?
I don't think they'll have to try that hard, to be honest, because I think Portugal have been rubbish. To be perfectly honest.
Get off the fence.
I still don't understand how they got to the final. It's ridiculous.
No, I don't. And I called them as a dark horse pre-tournament. I'm not going to take any credit for that because they've not been a dark horse. They've been black bloody beauty.
They're like Tom said. Pepe's been very good when he's played, and he hasn't been the sort of the idiot and done the stupid things that we know that he's sort of sadly famous for, I suppose, from his perspective. Getting red cards and stuff like that. But they haven't been amazing at the back. They haven't been brilliant. They've just been a solid team who sort of plodded along, giving up chances that teams haven't taken. They've got chances that they haven't finished themselves, and I just can't see anyone other than France winning it, which obviously means Portugal will win the final, because I've got every single prediction done, John, completely wrong. So sorry, everyone, if you're cheering France on. No, I just think the French defence started off wobbly at the start of the tournament. They've got better as it's gone on. You always want to grow into a tournament. You never want to start well because you'll end up finishing poorly. And Titi's come in, done really well, got better each game. They've proved they can play without Conte in midfield. They've proved they can do it without Payet performing, because first two games it looked like if it wasn't him then they weren't going to get a goal. They're getting the best out of Griezmann now, playing off Giroud, who's got better as the tournament's gone on. Pogba's now playing much better despite not being in his correct position. Sissoko's come in, done great. I just think there's as neat and tidy as a football team as Portugal are, and they're very good technical players. There's not a lot that amazes me. The big thing will be how much of a difference will it be for having Carvalho back in the team. I thought Danilo was very good for Portugal, but Carvalho was the one who I thought they just moved the ball much better when he's in the midfield because he's a lot calmer on it. The problem that they will have when he comes back in, though, is that he's not the quickest. So if Griezmann can get a little bit of space and get away from him, then he might be able to cause some havoc. And obviously, the French, if Bruno Alves is still playing in defence, then Griezmann will have an absolute field day running at him. So, yeah, I can't see anything but France. So, sorry if you're cheering Portugal. And, oh, God, I cannot face Ronaldo winning a thing ever. It's...
Do you know, I couldn't help it, before we go, I couldn't help but mention this. Did you... I know, Tom, you're a fan, so I'll try and be as polite as I can. But did you see obviously the celebrations when Portugal got... I think it was the second goal last night. I caught the highlights when I got in.
Yeah.
And they do the big sort of bundle on, and then Ronaldo couldn't help but take himself then away from that and do that stupid bloody pose thing on his own.
The jump and spread your legs.
He couldn't just do the bundle, could he? No, he had to go off.
Maybe he's contractually obliged to do that to promote his brand or something. Can you be contractually obliged to yourself
I'm waiting for the time when he whips off his shirt and he's got that six-pack thing he's marketing on under his shirt going, hey, six-pack. Like,
maybe he thought he'd scored. Maybe he didn't think Nani got the flick in the moment.
Maybe he's just a massive prick. Anyway, we'll leave it on that.
Very talented one, though. Very talented.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, jokes aside, you can't take away the fact he's an immensely talented penis. Let's leave it there. But
unbiased host.
Oh, come on, we've had a busy tournament. I'm allowed to take it slightly above the watershed. Anyway, right. Well, I think the plan is to get everybody back on for Sunday. I think that's the loose plan. But before Sunday, Tom, you've got something that you're going to bring the listeners as a little bonus pod, which we're hoping to get out this time tomorrow. Do you want to tell them about that?
Oh, just before Tom does that, because that should be the big news. Did you want a quick fantasy football update?
I was going to do that, but I didn't know if tables are ready. So do you want to do that first?
Tables are ready. I was going to save Tom's one for the end because that's the cool bit. Unless you're top of the fantasy football, in which case you're probably really interested.
That'll be me.
Jabroni is still top. Unbelievable. Sean Barrett is closing the gap. It's just 5 points in it. So,
finish.
Yeah, it's going to be a photo finish between those two. As for the pod crew members, well,
I was going to say, let's get to the good bit.
I'm scrolling. Chris is top out of all of us.
Where?
I'm so upset. You're 16th. This is terrible.
Yes!
Oh my God, how are you there?
I don't know.
Oh no. Ross is up to 27th.
Oh.
Drew, you slipped. Ross has overtaken you. You're 28th.
No.
This is incredible.
I was at the 6th at one point. My capitulation has been fantastic.
Yeah.
You are the Spurs of this podcast, Drew.
I clearly am, and how dare you insult me in such a manner?
I am.
Sorry,
oh my
sorry,
God! Hang on a minute. Where's Tom? Where's Tom gone?
Tom is the Barnsley.
I've crashed a bird. Quite literally, I've disappeared off the face of the earth.
Oh no! I found Tom. Tom is 38th. So picking up right down at the bottom. Yep, I led at the start after day one, and I've done nothing but bring up the air ever since. I'm in 43rd place.
Can I just make a funny point? Before the game started today, I had Ronaldo as captain my last game, and I accidentally clicked on Neuer and pressed him as captain, and I lost my points and I couldn't change it back.
Oh dear. I don't even know. Oh, I had Ozil as captain. That didn't work out very well either, did it?
We should put this out now that we should do EPL fantasy next season in the same vein.
We are actually. That's a good point, Drew. We are planning this, boys and girls. However, we appreciate that some of our listeners who've joined us throughout this wonderful European tournament might not necessarily be fans of the Premier League. They might have their own league. So, what we're going to try and do is see if anyone does a European one. So, if you know of any, do write in. What is this? 1995.
League. I know that there's a Champions fantasy one, but I don't know if there. I mean, I'm sure other leagues have their own, but I wouldn't know where to find them. So.
Well, what we'll do is we'll see if we can find a European one. I think the Sun used to do one, so maybe we'll try and find a European one. If we can't, then sorry guys, we'll just have to do a Premier League one. But we will do another. It's been really fun interacting with the listeners for this, so we will be doing something. So if not, I'll just get John to write every single player in Europe, and he can manage it himself. So that'd be fun. Right. Oh yes, get your coefficient stats questions into John now.
Give the listeners the exciting news now.
Yes, Tom. Right, over to you.
So I have managed to land us a rather special interview with Mr. Graham Hunter, who is a specialist in Spanish football. Like our previous guest, Ali Beg is an Aberdeen fan, originally from Scotland, and has interviewed the likes of Lionel Messi, Johan Cruyff, Ronaldinho, Xavi, Iniesta, Del Bosque, and now I'm going to interview him. So, how did that happen? So that'll be interesting. And I know we're coming to the end, but I wanted to segue very quickly to Kris, because it segues quite nicely that Mr. Graham Hunter put out a tweet saying that Germany's loss means that Spain's 3 tournament in a row run will be safe for another 2-4 years. This crop of French players, considering the age of them, with the likes of Koeman and Griezmann and Umtiti and whoever else, could they possibly go on to be the next treble consecutive winning country?
Yes, is the short answer, I think. I mean, somebody, I forget who it was, it might have been our very own Rich Allen, put out a tweet earlier on at the end of the game and said that it was such an amazing transition from a side that was completely broken after the last World Cup. There was divides in the camp. There was the whole Nasri affair. There's been the Benzema affair. A team completely divided, and to see them together after tonight, I think, says a lot. Two things need to happen for France to continue or to take on dominance, if you will. Deschamps, there has to be a decision made on his future because there's a lot of talk about him potentially walking away if they win it. He does divide opinions. Some like him, some hate him. There's very few in between. And the other thing I think that has to happen is that the progression of these players has to continue, because if you look at the likes of players that have not been in this squad, when you think of Lacazette, you think of who else? Kochia, Sidibe, Fekir. Absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of players that didn't make the cut. And then you look at players like Anthony Martial, who some Pellick said could be player of the tournament. I don't know who that guy was. Who hasn't played in this tournament, but was arguably Manchester United's best player last season. So they have to keep doing this. And the one thing, I know I'm quite biased on this, but the one thing that France always produces is young talent. And there are so many players leaving Ligue 1 this season, last season, every season, going to big clubs and succeeding. And don't forget Ousmane Dembele, of course, who, if he has a good season with Dortmund, which I'm sure Drew will keep us across, could be, one of the next big world stars. So, yes, everything's there, but there's a lot of questions that have to be answered after this tournament. And don't forget, if they were to lose to Portugal on Sunday, that could reset the whole project, because the French supporters are known for not being the most patient when it comes to change when something goes wrong. So, watch this space, I would say. But good question. I like it. And do let Graham Hunter know that if he wants to interview me, I can be reached for a decent price. So, I know it'll be a step down from Messi, but I'm sure
put you in tandem with Messi. That'll work out nicely. Yeah.
Messi can pay my tax bills. Actually, no, he better focus on his own for now. Right, we'll leave it there then. So yes, plan is to have everybody back on Sunday. We are going to do a wrap-up pod once the tournament is done as well. So Sunday we're just going to do the pod about the final, and then at some point next week we'll probably do a round-table discussion, which we might do live, possibly, depending on if people want it. We'll just look back at the tournament, and then stay tuned, because we're in the midst of arranging a kind of former guest special, where we're going to get back some of our best interviews of the past season and hopefully get them all on the pod and have a little natter about their thoughts as well. So stay tuned. Once we've got that booked, we'll announce it. Right, that's it then. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Bit of an extended episode, but lots to cover. So my thanks to my panellists, to John, to Drew, and to Tom. Thank you, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Adios.
Yeah, no problem.
I thought Drew had thrown himself out the window then for a minute.
Smash that jab, John.
He's gone. Right, so as always, as we say on this podcast, or as we have throughout the Euros anyway, keep your satchel clean and your pipe stoked. We'll return after the final when France will be... No, I won't say that. We'll speak to you on Sunday. Enjoy your couple of days break. Enjoy the final. And we'll speak to you very soon.
A match winner. Is this the moment? It is. Divock Origi. There and now Pilla, and they now have the breakthrough. Failed. To Greener.